Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Lisa DePriest started out as an author for me, and I loved her cute little book called Poor Teddy. But after you meet Lisa, if you don't befriend her, you're just being really stupid, because Lisa is so full of friendship for not only pets, but just people. What were you like as a little girl? Welcome to the show, Linda.
Lisa,
good. See? Lisa. That's Siri saying, I'm sorry, Anita. It isn't Linda. It's Lisa, right?
Oh, as a little girl, I don't know. I guess I may have thought I was shy, but apparently I wasn't. You know, I don't know. I guess I was pretty outgoing.
Yeah,
I was always an animal
that.
Lover since I was a child.
Oh.
So, yeah, I guess I was pretty outgoing.
Yeah, I can see that. You are. You have this great personality. So, but the pets that you do take care of, it started out, I guess, as a volunteer. And we talked about that. Yes. But now you're a full-fledged employee, right? Well, why don't we talk a little bit about what is your day like when you, I want to back up. Let's talk about your book first, because that's really why I want to really have people buy your book, Poor Teddy, the true story of a poodle named after a noodle, which is really interesting. Why don't we go and talk about your book?
All right. Well, it kind of related to my job because it started with a dog that was at the job. I was doing a shelter tour, which this is all in the book. I won't give away the very ending of the book, but I give tours at the shelter, and I also go out and do presentations. But I was giving a tour, and this dog was just running laps in his area. I want to call it his pen. They're not really in cages at our place. They're in small rooms with glass, so you have a good view. But he just would not stop running. He was just like frantically running, and he was yellow, which what happened was he actually was being treated for mange. So the dip that they use turned his hair yellow. So all the kids were like, why is his hair yellow? You know how kids are. And then right away they moved on to the next one because, you know, there's so many dogs there that are adorable. And this one was just running around. He didn't look so cute. Of course, those are always the ones I'm attracted to. But it turned out they couldn't cure his mange. So they ended up sending out a skin sample. Turned out he had been burned with chemicals. Yeah, so he really was poor Teddy. So I took him home one day because I was thinking I knew someone that...
Excuse me, where'd the Teddy come from?
Well, you have to read the book.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right.
No, that was just his name. Yeah, I'm just kind of teasing you, but he did have a different name at the shelter, but I started calling him Teddy. Just, I don't know, he just looked like a little teddy bear to me.
Right?
Yeah. So.
By the way, Carol Parker Luter is on watching you, and I know she's a friend, and she lives in Texas.
Hi, Carol in Texas.
And she's always had dogs, so go ahead.
So anyways, I took him home thinking, you know, let me just give him a night off, and also I had somebody that I had in mind that would be probably interested in him because they had lost their small white dog. They couldn't make it to the house. The dog ends up sleeping at my house, and the rest is history. I could never take him back to the shelter because even the day I took him up to my office a couple times, and at the end of the day when I had to bring him back, I always felt so terrible because he would be clinging to me like, don't leave me. So I knew, you know, I was going to keep him.
You know, let's go back to, do you know how he got in that condition or who his owners were? And tell us what the psychology of all this is. How could someone hurt a dog?
Well, he was actually tied to the door of our shelter with a note, can no longer take care of, which that's understandable for people. It's a little bit of a odd story because apparently the woman may have come back trying to adopt another animal, and somebody at the front counter recognized her and said, I think she's the one that may have tied the dog. And that got into a whole thing. I probably shouldn't get into all the details, but the bottom line was she said she wanted her dog back. And someone said, we don't have your dog, but he was still in the computer at work. So when I walked in after lunch, someone said, do you still have, I won't say his other name. And I said, yeah, is he upstairs in your office? I said, no, he's at my house. They said, you better adopt him right now. So I did, because the only way to get him off the computer was to adopt him. And there was a long history. It was pretty, I don't know, I don't want to bring the show down, but it was pretty horrid what happened to the dog. And the lady admitted to it, and she said it was her ex-boyfriend that had beat him and poured It was a long story, but we weren't going to give the dog back. She had surrendered the dog. It was 8 months before she had tied it to the door, so it was no longer her pet. And I think she was just, I don't know, maybe she wasn't well in her head, you know. And later on, she kind of cornered me one time because I guess somebody may have felt bad for her and told her, don't worry, somebody here has a dog, he's in good shape. So she actually met me one time when I was leaving the building. And I was a little uneasy, but she was very nice. And she started crying, and she just said she was really happy that he had a good home. And she told me a little bit more about him. I found out he was 5 years older than what we thought he was. But, so I think she was just relieved knowing that he was in a good home. And I felt I felt good for her that she could have that peace, because she really wasn't able to really take care of him, because he required a lot, and he came along with a lot of other problems, seizures. He had a lot of brain damage, I guess, from being beaten. So I went through a lot with the dog. So
it's interesting that we have so many dogs and cats in all these centers.
Yeah.
All over the country.
Yes.
I don't know how many. You probably don't know an exact amount, but I would probably say millions.
Yeah.
Yes?
I would say.
And the fact that, years ago, we had humane societies, but they didn't do what you all do today. Humane societies picked up the dogs and, and that was the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
But where do you think that all started? I love this because as a pet owner, I would do this with not a cockroach, but, just anything that's sweet and little.
I know.
So tell me, how do you think that life got so much better for them?
I'm not really sure. I guess it's just kind-hearted people that people really start to appreciate, how intelligent animals really are, and how they really have their personality.
Or somebody like an Einstein, or somebody
that
changed everything. Because I've never heard of that.
I don't know. I really don't. I wish I did know, but I'm glad it happened.
Story,
whatever it would be. Yeah, we should research that.
Yeah, to see who really said
opened everyone's eyes.
You shouldn't be treating animals like this, and they're like people. Yeah. Well, you are right. I am glad it's changed. So, but there are different. I don't know if it's the laws or why are they different in different states? The way that they take care of the pets. Is there a humane society is national though, right?
Well, every humane society it's a common name, but we're not really associated with them. Every humane society is different. Like, for example, our humane society takes in dogs and cats because we have a very bad overpopulation problem. So we focus on just cats and dogs. Other humane societies, like up where my parents live, take in cats, dogs, rabbits, birds, snakes, lizards. They don't have such an overpopulation problem. And a lot of times, I guess it depends on the area. Up north, animals that don't have a home usually don't make it through a cold winter, so maybe their overpopulation problem isn't as bad for that reason. And I know in California, they're really doing a great job of getting everyone to spay and neuter, and they're really ahead of the game, like they usually are, in California, it seems. But hopefully they're going to be a no-kill. I think San Francisco may be a no-kill, act like a totally no-kill now. So that would be wonderful. But the only way to do it is really to spay and neuter. We can't adopt our way out of the problem. Some cities are putting in laws where they can't sell pets in pet stores. And that's a big fight, but people have to really look into it before they buy a pet from a pet store, because puppy mills, people don't realize. And I can't blame people because they don't know. I remember growing up as a kid, I couldn't wait to go to the mall just to go to the pet store and look at the puppies and and now I know better. So. And
the one thing that I've been very impressed with, I didn't know this years ago, is that it's not just like going into a humane society and you just pick whatever kind of dog that happens to be there. Now, just like you said, if you wanted a Maltese or you wanted a Shih Tzu or you wanted a German Shepherd, there are leagues that you can go to and get them, right?
Yes, there are specialty rescue groups. And also, even at the shelters, they'll have match-a-pet programs. So, you can get on a list, and when you're looking for a certain breed, they'll call you when it comes in. And we have that at our shelter, too. But most shelters do have it. But a lot of times from, let's say, the county shelters, they don't have that luxury of the time. Like our shelter, we don't euthanize. We're adoption guarantee. So any animal we take in will stay till they find a home. So we have the luxury of getting to know the animal, finding the right, adopter. The county shelters don't always have that luxury because they're so overcrowded. So they will call rescue groups in, or rescue groups, even ourselves, we go and pull animals from them to help them out with the situation. But like German Shepherd Rescue, I always use them as an example because my friend actually called them and got a dog from them. But they'll call rescue groups, or they'll go pull the animals out. And then, so I always tell people you can always find any pet. If you just be a little patient sometimes, but you can always find what you're looking for. Yeah.
And I'm glad you just brought that up, too, because I was really an innocent till I talked with you, frankly, about pets. Because I thought that, okay, here comes a live one, I'll call them. They come in there and, they're going to take one of the dogs, right? Then if they want one, they have to be interrogated about who they are. What are they going to do? I'm going to come to your house. I want to see. I can't get over that. That's like a whole new idea.
I mean, I understand it because, there's people that they live in a condominium and they think they're going to get away with getting a dog that's too big. And in the end, what's going to happen? The animal's going to have to be returned, or maybe they're going to pass it along to someone else who's going to pass it along to someone else. Shelters invest a lot in their pets. They do the surgeries, the vaccines, they do everything. They take care of them till they get adopted. They don't want to just let them go to be returned or not to be taken care of properly. So, we don't want someone to, use a dog for just leave it outside, not pay attention to it, or just use it as a guard dog. We know our pets and we really want to give them the best home. We want the person to be happy. We want the pet to be happy, and we want to be happy knowing the pet got into a good home.
So I see that makes a very much better explanation, because I thought they should be so lucky that someone came and
But you can get the wrong people also, like especially if you're not careful. I mean, things can always slip through the cracks, I guess, but you don't want to give someone a dog that maybe you find out they have 20 dogs that never had shots. You want to make sure you get into a good home.
And then I had a cousin who wanted to get this dog, and she thought it was going to be fine, but she was vying with 2 other people who wanted the dog. And now I said, what do you mean? How do they judge? How do you judge?
We don't really have that problem at our shelter somehow. We if they're on a match-a-pet program, we do the applications in order. If you're on a list, we call you in order, and we give you a certain amount of time to return the call. Sometimes we call people and then they've already found another pet, which is fine. But we just go down the list. So we give everybody the fair opportunity. There's certain events that they'll have at the shelter where it gets into a little bit of that. But listen, sometimes they do the property check to make sure, because people fib. They really want a pet and they'll fib about something, or maybe they're renting from somebody else. We need proof from the landlord that it's all right for them to have a pet. So, and you have to be careful also, because believe it or not, there have been times when people have adopted, when there's a big event, they have like big outdoor events where they try to get a lot of pets adopted at once from all the shelters join in. And people have turned around and tried to sell the pets on Craigslist to make money.
Oh, no.
So we have to also do backup, to make sure, follow through, because you wouldn't think people would do that, but hey, it's unbelievable sometimes what people do. So it's important that we check everyone.
Well, if someone's going to pay money, they probably want that dog pretty much, right? And maybe they'll be a better master than the one that got it.
I know, but it's still wrong, because if they're getting the dog for $95 and then they want to sell it for $400, we want to know where our dog is. But all of our pets are microchipped, so eventually.
Why don't you sell the dogs on Craigslist? I mean, not sell, and then get.
Well, we advertise in different places, but people come into and they just do their application and look around. We don't have dogs at our shelter that long where, maybe we could put an ad for a dog and it could be gone in 2 days. So it would be kind of a waste of our money in a way. People know we're there.
And then there are people, of course, who find pets who have run away. Mm-hmm. And that's so horrible. And then what happens if they've lost the pet and it winds up at the shelter, and then somehow they put out these notices and then they find it?
Well, that's always a great story.
That? I know it.
And that's why it's really important to microchip your pet, because collars can fall off, but microchips are there, and every shelter will scan for a microchip. And even if you find a pet, if they scan for the microchip, tell them to scan all over the body. I always remind everybody of this, because sometimes that little microchip can move a little bit. Especially when they first came out. Now they probably stay in place a little better, but they can move. So don't just do right on their shoulder blades, kind of check and they do that at my shelter. They go all over them to make sure there's no microchip.
This is a great woman. Lisa DePriest is my guest, and Lisa wrote this great book called Poor Teddy, and it's a wonderful book. It's so great for children, but I think it's great for adults because it's so sweet.
Well, the funny thing
I just want to tell everybody too, the illustrations are not to be believed. I mean, it's like the dogs pop out of the pages.
I was very happy with the way it turned out.
And I know you're working on something else too.
Yes, I have
You can't keep a good woman down.
I have one that's almost ready to be polished up and get illustrated, and I have about 3 more spinning in my head and a little bit on paper.
So everybody can see it too. Oh, you do? And it's going to be about pets, I'm sure.
Oh, yes. And they're all true stories. And they're all about rescued pets that I've owned or people in my family have owned.
Well, it's interesting that I, at one point, I guess a couple of years ago, was very interested in possibly starting a magazine for rescue pets.
Wow.
And it was just to talk about all the stories you're talking about, because I've heard so many. But it just got to be a little bit too much with what I'm doing now, and I gave it up. But I had a real idea about doing that. It's because I realized it is huge.
Oh, I had a big idea, too. We'll have to talk about it after the show. Maybe we could get together on it. I did have a big idea for a pet.
But,
business.
I think even having a radio show on rescued pets, it would be very good, too.
It would.
Because
you could feature a couple pets every show.
Yeah, the trouble is that they'll go so fast and everybody wants them. That.
Oh, well,
isn't that
we could have
though?
worse problems, right?
Yeah, I guess we could. I always get the feeling that these little things stay there for years, but they don't, do they?
No, we have had some that have, but, they've eventually found homes, or they consider the shelter their home, which is a little bit sad, but in a way it's not, because they get a lot of attention at our shelter.
They don't know the difference.
They don't, as long as they feel at home. But we always want them to be in a regular home, of course.
And then I know people who say, I can't go to the shelters because I take all the dogs, because I can't stand to see them.
I'm one of those people.
But are there people who actually have huge homes with, not homes are fine, but huge acres? And they do get a lot of dogs and cats and let them just run and feed them and take care of them. Are there things like that?
I'm sure there are. I don't know anybody like that. I know where I live, in the county I live, there's a limit to how many dogs you can have. It's 4 dogs. And I think if you have an acre, you can have up to 6 dogs. And if you have more than that, you have to get a special, maybe a kennel license. So there are limits. Cats, there are no limits because they are considered free-roaming animals. So that sometimes becomes a problem because they reproduce and so often. So that's why we push the spay-neuter all the time.
Right, but you can see that if all you have to do is provide food and love, I would think that some people want to give up their life to this.
I agree. I would be one of those people.
Yeah, I can see that.
But it's a little harder than that. Because, as they get age, there's a lot more expense involved. And, those are things like with Teddy, that's something I learned. He became very expensive. Not that it bothered me, and I remember hearing somewhere, and I don't remember, it was one of the national groups talking about people that are hoarders. And that, because that can be a problem. But I remember this person said something, because I have a friend that has cats, and she's always thinking, I don't want people to think I'm the crazy cat lady. And I said, you're not, because you take care of your cats. And then I told her what I heard this top guy, one of these organizations, say. You can have 1 pet and not be able to take care of it and be considered a hoarder. Or you could have 10 that you can take care of perfectly. You're not a hoarder. As long as you can take care and provide for them, you shouldn't be considered a hoarder. It's when it gets out of control where you don't have the money for food or the care or cleaning up after them, then it's a problem.
What about people who, though, travel? They go back and forth with their pets. Is this, and this is off the subject in a way, but isn't that hard on a pet?
I think it would be, no, I know, it's flying. I know. I think that.
Have you ever done that with
No, I haven't.
I haven't either.
No. I think nowadays they're a little more lenient where they charge you, but to have your pet in the seat with you or under the seat, that might be a little better. But I personally am a nervous flyer, so I wouldn't want that extra.
And they'd have to be small enough.
Exactly.
I have to tell you, actually, Seth Levy is watching the show too, but let me just say this. I was on the plane not too long ago, and there was a dog sitting on a seat.
Yeah.
They bought the seat for the dog.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe it. And it probably has to be some sort of a support dog, emotional support or a therapy dog. I think so. I think otherwise a large dog would probably have to go in cargo, which I personally would not want to do.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
And you heard recently that someone took a dog with...
And made them put him in the overhead bin. I know.
The airline's responsible for doing that.
But even as a person, I would say, let me off the plane. I'm not going to do that.
Of course.
I couldn't do it. Because just thinking about you being in those dogs, there's a French bulldog, I think. Any dog with a short nose, they have a hard enough time breathing in general. That's why they can't get overheated. And to put them up in the overhead bin, that was just crazy. I couldn't get over it. Yeah. I know.
I guess sometimes dogs are so sweet and they're so good.
I know.
That they don't complain.
I know.
And yet they can take advantage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the other thing I want to ask about is, what about dogs? If they're home alone, I know you're not a vet, but you know so much about dogs. If they're home alone, is it better to get another dog to keep them company, or Well, what do
Well,
you
of
suggest?
course, I'm always going to say yes because I want animals to get rescued. It depends on the dog, but I think a dog can get lonely. And even if you got him a cat, I had a cat and a dog for a time, and they really kept each other company. And I have pictures of them sleeping together on the sofa. But some dogs don't mind if they've been alone a long time. But I personally think more the merrier.
Yeah,
but
I would think that too. I have not gotten my Charlie another dog because since I adopted him about 2 or 3 years ago, and he's so used to what he has.
Right.
I'm so afraid that if I got something, it could really change his way. He's used to what he does. But I do leave the television on when I leave.
Right.
I always leave the television on.
What channel?
Right.
Because they have dog.
Politics.
They have dog TV
Right.
now.
They do.
On cable. My sister's dog. She turns that on for her dog.
They have dog.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to find that.
It's not on my company, but her company. They have it. Dog TV. I know.
What we do, huh?
I know.
And,
our dog Mopsy was my first dog. I mean, he was our only dog, and my brother had a dog and a cat, and the cat passed away, so it was just his one dog, Mabel. And then I found a dog. I think I mentioned before, Chris, and they took him. And everybody thought that was Mabel's puppy, even though he wasn't a baby. But that, we think, added a couple years to her life because she really perked up with him. But, of course, you can get a dog that doesn't get along either. So, I don't know. It depends. I probably wouldn't do it to Charlie at his age.
No,
because he's got his routine, yeah.
You are going to love the upcoming May issue, Lisa, because I found, I don't know if I sent it to you. I think I did send it to you about this cat living on on the dog. He loves it, and they're together all the time.
I know.
Oh, the most beautiful story, so I had to put it. I put it on the cover, and then I did a whole thing on it.
Yeah.
I mean, now that is precious, isn't it?
I know. Even the dog with the elephant, that story, Bella?
No.
Oh, I'll send you that. My dad sent it to me. It was a dog and an elephant that became very close. And the elephant or the dog got sick, and the elephant would just go and got very depressed, waiting outside. It's a beautiful story. I have to send it to you. And there's pictures and everything. My dad gives to an elephant rescue, so my grandmother loved elephants, so my dad continues the the donations.
So see, that's where you got all this.
Yeah,
so
I know. We're all animal
came
people
from the very beginning, right? Well, the other thing that I think is important is that when, we have dogs who now get cancer. We get a lot of things that are very hard on the dog. And sometimes, I know it's hard on the owner, but people really need to think about that dog. And if we can, there are many vets who are working with dogs that have cancer, and they're doing a good job.
Yes.
But sometimes it's just not possible. And that happened with a dog that I knew with the owner, and they kept saying, oh, well, I hate to put him to sleep, and I put him out of his misery. It wasn't a matter of doing that. That's a hard thing, isn't it?
Well, it's funny that you brought that up because my mom and dad just lost their dog to cancer not even a week ago. I know, their dog.
And how long did they have the
Paisley. dog? I think around 12 years.
Oh, my heavens, they must be so crazy now.
Yeah, but it's not funny, but she was so happy and never was in pain. But they could tell she wasn't walking right. They took her in, and they had a discussion with the vet, and she said, well, she started kind of bleeding. So, like, her platelets were low, so she was bleeding somewhere, So they made that decision. But I think everybody was okay with it because she was wagging her tail, which made it harder, but at the same time, they knew she wasn't suffering at all. Like, she was happy till the last minute of her life,
Yeah, I think we've all been in the vet's office when they have to, put them to sleep. But I think if you hold them while they're going.
That's what they did, of course. Yeah. And they do put them to sleep first before they give the other injection. So it's pretty peaceful.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. We've come a long way, haven't we?
Taking
care of our pets.
We all wish that they would just pass away in their sleep at home, like we all wish for everybody, but it just doesn't always happen that way.
Live forever.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's for sure. That's true. But it just doesn't always happen the way we wanted to. So I always remember my vet telling me one time, I had a sick pet, and he said, "Let's think about the little guy. We can't think about us. Let's think about the little guy."
That's beautiful. Yeah, the little guy.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, because vets don't want to put them to sleep.
No.
It's really, they know. Yeah, and since they don't complain. Now, there are dogs, of course, that cry, and you know.
Of course.
But a lot of them are just quiet.
Yeah.
And so you're right. And there'll be some people, and I don't agree with this, if they lose a pet, then they say, I can't go through that again. I'm not getting. I said, that's not right. There's another pet waiting for you.
I know. That's how I
don't
feel,
you
too.
Feel the same
yes,
way?
I do. And that could heal you so much, and you can give another pet a chance,
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
because when they offered me Charlie, and Charlie was, I guess, 9, they said, well, I know he's old, and a lot of people said, why do you want an old dog? I said, are you kidding?
I know.
Why wouldn't I want an old dog?
Exactly. I agree. I always like the older ones.
Well,
puppies will always get adopted, and they have their ways, and their personality already, and they're calm.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, you mean older dogs?
No, I'm sorry, you're talking about puppies.
Oh, no, not puppies.
Right.
No, I'd rather have older dogs because they're calm and they're trained.
Yeah. Right, they are.
Yeah.
But anyway, I live in a condominium, and they absolutely love dogs. So
that's good.
Yeah, we have dogs walking around all the time now.
Yeah.
Some people have gotten dogs that are much larger than the condominium is supposed to. I don't care, but that's a problem, isn't it?
Well, I personally don't think it is either, because I find that large dogs tend to be quieter than big dogs. Honestly, they always say, oh, your dog, if it's 15 pounds, those are the dogs that seem to bark more. Big dogs, when they bark, there's usually a reason. Little dogs, they bark a lot. Sometimes, who knows at what, a lizard walking by or something. But
no, you're right.
I find that big dogs are calmer. I had a big dog, Lucky, and I remember my brother said he'd be the perfect apartment dog. He was huge, but he was so mellow.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's we have a lot of dog walkers too, which is really important for a lot of us. Yeah, they love dogs, and it's a way for them to make money too. So, Lisa, as usual, I know we always go through all this stuff, but poor Teddy is not poor Teddy anymore. Poor Teddy had a wonderful life, and I think people love to see that book. And we'll be talking to you again, and we thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.